the harder you worked, the bigger the result. So the more I called and the more I practiced my craft, the more money I made. It's pretty simple.
Welcome to another episode of Season 5 of Relentless Life on Your Terms. I have a good friend of mine I've known for around 10 years, got a very interesting journey as an entrepreneur, young entrepreneur, very smart, very ambitious, done very well. Michael, thanks for being here, mate.
Thank you for the nice introduction.
Now, it probably hasn't been 10 years, but it's how long since I first met you?
Be 2017, I'd say.
Oh,
be 7.
7, 8 years. Well, there you go. So you're
as you said, the better part of 10 years.
The better part of 10 years. The entrepreneurial journey started very, very young. You were early 20s or 22, you were saying to me?
Yeah, 22 when I started my first business, so 33 now.
Now, you run a lot of different businesses. I'd like to touch on a few of them. We can't talk all of them in half an hour. Maybe it's a second episode.
Yep.
And we'll talk mainly of your company you've built and developed with a friend of yours called Greenrock.
Yep.
But before we get there, I know you also do arts as well. So I want you to touch on each of them, but focus mainly on Greenrock if you can. Where did you start at 22? What was that business? I
think, going back before even 22, the best way to sort of describe it is I always had that sort of entrepreneurial spirit where I was always questioning how things were done. I wasn't, my reports at school always said that I had potential, but
good old potential.
And I remember how disappointed my parents would get every time they read that. But my father had a number of businesses when I was growing up, so we were always talking about business at the table. And my mum is an immigrant from England, and my father's from Italy, and his parents came here in the 60s. Oh no, sorry, the late 50s. So he was born here when he was 1, and my mum came here when she was 17. So my upbringing, they were from very working class families in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. Mum was out in Doncaster back then, which was pretty working class. And my father grew up in Glenroy and attended a tech school in Broadmeadows. So for me...
Not Kangan TAFE.
I don't think that had back then. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, because that's the one I attended. I was just more curious. Yeah, sorry.
It was plumbing. So it wasn't anything to do with business. However, my parents have had a profound impact on my upbringing. They worked extremely hard to send me and my sisters to a private school. And I think the financial burden of that probably even had an impact on the marriage collapse.
Do you think that helped you in your business? Since looking back, I know it fostered some great relationships, which we'll talk about, and particularly talking about one of your best friends and business partners. Do you think that helped you in your business life?
100%.
Why?
The more I look back, so when I went to university, I dropped out of university. I always questioned education. I always questioned the teachers. I thought it was bullshit. A lot of, mathematics and algebra, and get back to that because I'm doing my MBA now at Melbourne and I'm doing algebra and I'm respecting high-level education. But back then, I didn't respect it. I was just very focused on building a career and getting safety in my life. I moved houses 15 times and I wanted, property was an important cornerstone for me, and having that sense of stability was important. But I learned about hard work. So when, kids at my private school were going to Lorne and Portsea in summer, I was working in a factory in Preston, getting up at 4 a.m, training to Flinders Street Station from St Kilda Road. I lived on St Kilda Road. My parents were renting an apartment there. I'd then get the train to Preston at 5:30. I'd get a bus up Bell Street and I'd be working with people on, absolute minimum wage from the Heidelberg Commission flats. And I was working 12-hour days for $14 an hour. And my dad would drive there, but he would make me take the public transport and then I would train home. So when I look back on that, I feel like I was working harder physically at 15 than I am now.
But it actually instilled those principles. So
Totally.
You saw your parents and then you're doing it subconsciously. It's embedded in you.
Totally.
And so going back to the school, do you think that helped with connections? What do you think the private schooling helped?
Look, it's a weakness of mine is networking. I've been so focused on my own personal work and building that I don't get time to network, and I haven't made the time because I feel like networking to a degree is about favors and handouts. I don't want that. I just keep my head down and do me. But
But I know
now,
you and you know so many people. So I find that maybe if you develop that later on in your life, because you know quite a lot of people. And I'll
I
consider you
do.
quite a good networker.
I do have a good network, but I would say also I don't leverage off that network. It's more friendship based.
I understand that makes more sense because, yeah,
But now, and we'll talk about what I'm doing now, the importance of having good people that, can raise capital and have access to funds or whatever it is to scale. I need to draw on a network a bit more. But I think the first thing was having a very good work ethic, whether I liked it or not. When my alarm used to go off in the morning, I feel sick. Now it's a second nature. And then the APS private school system, I think, is very disciplined. Like you're doing sport, 5 days a week. The actual curriculum's fantastic if you participate. And I really, I'm very involved with Wesley now, more so than probably I ever was. I was doing some entrepreneurial training. We get around in some, funding operations now, and I really enjoy it.
so that's good. So go start that. You've seen your dad go into businesses and dabble in a lot of different things. You start your first business at 22, which I know was in education, selling education. Tell us a bit about that and how that transitioned into what you're doing now.
Well, that was crazy. So when I got my VCE marks, they weren't anything worth talking about. So
Definitely 5 times more
I
than
remember
mine.
my father calling me. He was working overseas, and he said, "How do you feel about that?" And I said, "I feel pretty shit," but that was the reality of it. I got into sales. A friend of mine was working at Telstra, selling mobile phones, bundle packages, tea boxes, all these things. The company has actually bred a lot of successful people that I know still to this day and keep track of. It was essentially like, battery hens in a chicken coop. There was 60, 70 people in a call center calling Telstra customers, and I instantly took a liking to the thrill of having no income. It was commission only. So it was an untapped earnings. And I learnt about the importance of building trust, working as a team, but also the harder you worked, the bigger the result. So the more I called and the more I practiced my craft, the more money I made. It's pretty
Direct
simple.
input is the direct output
Yeah.
when it comes to revenue and energy.
I was in control of my own paycheck. So I was pretty much self-employed from 19, the way I look at it. So that was a really interesting journey. I dropped out. I met a guy at a New Year's Eve party that told me he wanted to start an education business. That ended up doing, over $100 million a year in revenue. And I was the sales manager of that business. So that grew organically. I recruited a lot of friends. I remember he got me there. I was working on a milk crate pretty much in his office in Richmond when they started. They were trying to get a sales script. They were doing 3-4 courses a day between them. And, I wrote a script and said, this is easy. I've been doing this for 2 years. And I think I did 13 or 14 in my first 5 hours. And they just, so within 2 months, we had 45 staff and the business was off and away. But there's something fundamentally wrong with that with me. I was never passionate about the industry. A big part of, it was the product I wasn't passionate about. And I always had an underlying love for real estate. I was making good money in my early 20s. So I purchased my first home and, real estate was important to me. And that industry was collapsing. So this is when
That had a lot of government funding as well, didn't
Correct.
it? And regulations were changing.
Yeah.
Were you looking at pivoting before you found that out, or your passion wasn't there for that? And you know what? I want to diversify myself and go somewhere else.
I had the exit in mind well before. I saw the writing on the wall.
You did.
But the business that we built, unlike some, was very compliant. We were talking with government, and the students that we did had a really high retention rate. It's a very different model, right? It wasn't a cash grab model. But anyway, that we came up with a funding model that worked, and it was working, but I still didn't love it. And a good friend of mine, my best friend, still is at this time, kept knocking on my door, and he saw this successful business. He was coming in, and I had 40, 50 staff. He's like, you got to get into property. You do really well. And I know this guy's doing this. And I liked the idea of it, but I remember speaking to Sam being like, mate, I'm not interested. And then, I took a few people off my sales team and we started looking at this on the side. And that was the start of a love affair for property, and
You actually cold called me.
we cold called you.
That's how we first met. You actually cold
Yep.
called me to sell me leads. They were great quality leads. I like that you were very ambitious and there's that spark about you. I came to your office and I saw you, and that's when we started working together and built a friendship and all that. And it was to see the evolution of what you and Sam created from that. It's amazing. It's really good. I know the best is yet to come for you boys, but to segue across two different verticals, I think the skill sets that you learned as a kid, the hard work, the basis of that, understanding the value of that, to then go into call centers, which people don't see it at the time, but I think you realize that that was the cornerstone of your sales, cold calling, of really appreciating how hard it is to find a client, to service a client, and to get a client. And that transformed into real estate. And I know you went from one service to what's now known as Greenrock. So you employ quite a lot of people now, and you've built service upon service,
Yeah.
which has been great. So tell us a bit about that transition.
Well, just on the sales note for a minute, you know, people don't want to be masters. I'm in sales, and you know, it's a dirty word. And I mean, without a business's lifeblood is its revenue. Without revenue, you can't do great things. You can't employ people. So if you find a way within the boundaries to acquire a lot of clients, you have the power. And that's what I learned when I was employed in the education game. What I saw was all these fantastic people on $300,000 a year spending all the revenue and opening up hubs and doing all this great initiatives. People forget the importance of the sales department and how hard they work, and the importance of the acquisition of a customer, and then respecting the life cycle of a customer. So I knew that, and right now I'm not involved in sales. For the first time this year, I'm not client facing, you know, so which is scary.
I didn't even know that, actually. So that's
Yeah.
because you're very good at that. But look, the transition to grow the business, I haven't been client facing for quite a few years. I still do my seminars and stuff like that. I miss it, but it's the only way to scale. It's a very hard concept to let go when you're very good at it, but it's also, you can focus on different areas of the business, which is, I guess, where your business, well, yours and Sam's business is at the moment. So
yeah, we've got different silos now. So we've got Greenrock, which is our property advisory firm. We have an accounting firm, which we're shareholders in. So we have a great accountant.
finance arm,
business.
construction
There's a finance arm. Sam has the finance department. That's his baby. And then off the back of this, I mean, again, it's that entrepreneurial vision where, you know, we're selling properties for prominent developers, and there's really good products, and over the 1,000 clients we've had, all of them have done well. And that comes down to our product. People buy it because it's a good product. It's
the research, the time,
the research. We have
diligence.
research analysts. You know, our job is to return an investment on real estate to clients. So, however, the marketing material on some of the products, I noticed, got lazy in the house and land space. And I would say, look, we can't sell this. Look at your brochures. Look at your product. I mean, the volume building space, some of these houses in the investment division, I think are really unattractive. So I saw a market to beautify these houses, make them more sustainable, which is where the world's going, which is a big part of one of our key stakeholders.
I noticed you were posting about that recently, yeah.
Yeah, well, we have stakeholders in our business, and they were the customer, the employee, and the associates, our developers, our partners, our finance people. These are all key stakeholders of the business, and obviously the directors. We've added one this year. Without greenwashing, it is the planet. So we have a genuine purpose to work with people that are very focused on sustainable products, being as sustainable as we can in the office. And it's not just about climate change. Climate change, whether people believe in it or not, is that's their belief. Sustainability is about leaving the world in a better place for the next person. You know, people should have access to housing, which is something that you get around through your amazing initiative that you've been doing every year. When's that coming up, by the way? I better start saying
The 7th one's coming on the 20th of June. As every year, I'll be calling you many times and asking you to support. You always support me. But no, thanks for mentioning that. But yeah, we do quite a bit around that space. But anyway, going back.
Well, that's amazing. I feel like I'm sort of getting to a point in my career where it's a successful business. There's so many silos in running a business, which I realize. You've got your marketing department, You've got your sales department, you've got, your finances, your financial reporting department, your human resources, your logistics and your supply chain. So I need to oversee that. So we got to a point that I get a CEO or I become the CEO myself. So, but back to that part of the key stakeholder being the planet, and we're a very small business. We're not Coles Myer. So sometimes, I write these things and we talk to employees and you go, this sounds ridiculous. What impact can we actually have? But, when you're selling and you're building, 200 to 500 houses a year, who's involved in that supply chain?
There's so many more. But not only that, Michael, and a lot of people say this different, it's a ripple effect. 200, if you share that view with someone else who's got 200, you become 400. Someone else 500, you become 900. It's the ripple effect of what you're doing. It's the impact. It's the awareness. So even you go back to the funding, if you raise 50,000, you have not just had the impact of 50,000. If you've raised so much awareness and you've brought a couple more people along the journey, everything has a snowball effect. So I remember I saw this little thing and a kid threw, I think it was like a little seashell or some crustacean back in the ocean. Goes, you're not going to make a difference because I did for that one person. And it was the impact, the kindness of that one gesture, someone else might do it, and that snowballs. And I saw that little post and I go, what a smart kid. Someone goes, big deal. There's so many of them. You're not going to make a difference. It could be one house.
I think that's a challenge as well. And I look back on myself 10 years ago, how the hell did we get here? I was working in a factory as well at one point, in a glass factory in the back end in Oakley. But people really only see from outside in and how much moving parts are going on 16 hours a day nonstop, and the phone calls that Sam and I have at 10 o'clock at night, and the day starts. The day might start with exercise and people are doing all these great things, but we are starting work at 7 a.m. for our calls. So there's so much moving parts, and the evolution's been brilliant, but I think the cycle of where Greenrock is at now is really different. We have a brand, we have an enormous amount of clients, we have different businesses and different silos that we need to audit. I sort of feel like, you get to a point when the smarter you are, or the more wise you become, more experienced you become, the smaller you feel.
Because you realize that, Socrates said it better than anyone, all I know is nothing. Because you realize that the vast level of knowledge that he may have, he needs to know more. So once you become, and I know you love education, we're very similar in that sense. When you become a student of business, when you become a student of sales, which I call us both students, you want to learn so much more. So the thirst to get better as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and I think that goes for every aspect of your life. The better and more open-minded you are, and the better you become. And you attract people that have the right mindset. Like what you said earlier on when you said, how can we challenge this? How can we do it better? That's always the mind. I remember one of my mentors said to me, and I know that you think mentorship is very important, getting the right advice, which I think it's the cornerstone to my success. He said to me, Chris, because I've never met anyone that questions business as much as you. And this guy's a very, very affluent, super, super smart man, I respect. And I go to him, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because I don't know if he meant it as you talk too much, you ask too many questions, which is both correct, or well done, you question business a lot. He goes, no, you question business so much. I said, cool. And I was reminded of that when you said, can we do this different? I think you always need to be asking those questions. But it takes a very, very smart person to know that they're not that smart, because there's so much more knowledge out there.
Oh, that's why I'm studying this year, because everyone's going, well, why are you doing your MBA? Between a family, between 3 businesses, between 40 staff, I don't need to do the MBA.
That's why you need to do it.
But I'm not that good. I'm very good at, not even going to say very good. I have a skill set at running a team, at keeping a very high, you look at our employee surveys and our retention, people don't leave, and their job satisfaction out of 10 in coming to work is typically an 8.7 out of 10. People love coming to work. But are we good at deploying a strategic strategy and getting it out there and rolling it out? Have we been successful in our marketing? Is a call center marketing, is dealing with financial planners marketing. There's so much uncharted water. And the more experience I get, the less advanced I feel. And it's like you watch young people start a business and they're plastering stuff on social media. And I've done that. I'm actually not on social media. And the reason being is I don't feel like I'm giving back at this point right now, like you're doing. So you're doing a different thing. I'm not adding value to people, but I don't see the need to be boasting and showing off and doing things because I feel like an ant compared to the people that I'm chasing. The people that I admiring is Stephen Schwartzman and the mentors that I've had through learning and reading. I'm irrelevant in the space right now. We've got a lot of work to do over the next 10 to 15 years to actually build.
I don't think that will ever stop, though.
Yeah, well, but you feel like you're really successful when you're young. When you're starting, you
feel bulletproof. I get that because we've all gone through that journey, but you've also got to step back and look at to see and acknowledge that in your early 30s and to be running a business in your early 20s, they're two big achievements. And I always look at myself, and I'm quite a bit older than you. I'm 44. And I always look at, gee, I could have done so much more by this stage of my life. But the only solace I give myself is whatever I didn't pick up in the first 5 or 10 years or 20 years of my career, it's almost 20 as a CEO, I'm going to get it back 100-fold now. Whatever I've missed out in the start of my career, which I feel is a lot of opportunities, I could have done things so much better, made so many better decisions, that's okay. I'm going to make them back here times 10 with interest. That's kind of what I say to myself because I look back at 44 and go, should have done so much more. And I think that's the mark of a lot of entrepreneurs that always are looking to go to that next level quicker, better and more efficient.
Yeah, totally. I think people's intentions and it's just the love of the game of business. People talk about money, talk about cars, or it's got nothing to, it really doesn't have anything to do with that. People can think what they want. It's seeing something go from nothing, whether it be in a particular department or a brand or a business grow, seeing the reception of when you release a product that has an actual fundamental difference to people's needs and seeing your customer happy.
It is. And I attribute
that is a genuine feeling. I mean, for me, it's also our team. The success of Greenrock, and I need to say it whilst we're on camera, is our team. We have amazing people. Without these people, Sam and I would be nowhere.
That's always the mark of a good leader. But I look at business or even life as like a video game. It's different levels. At every level, you need a different skill set to complete, you need to get better. So when people go, why do you keep pushing that hard? For me, it's the thrill of getting to that next level.
Totally.
To acquire new skills, get new relationships in your life, business mentors, be sitting at different, more sophisticated tables, doing bigger deals, having more impact. That only happens as you elevate your skill level. Totally. That doesn't happen by not working hard, by sitting at home. And if that's what you want to do and you're happy with that, nothing's wrong with that. But why do people chase? And the people that I look up to from a business sense, they just always want to keep elevating their ability to learn and grow.
It's an addictive feeling.
It is. But everyone does it for different reasons, as you said. Cars, houses, wealth, whatever the case may be. There's no wrong or right. That's whatever you choose to want to do it. Have more impact, build your team. You have a love of art as well, don't you, Mick? Always.
I do. I mean, I actually sold the business, so you might not be aware.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, I got out of that.
Mickey's Art.
Mickey's Art. Yeah, I founded that in 2014. So my mum was a valuer at Christie's, and when I grew up, I just was in love with it. I mean, I used to work the bar at exhibitions. I'd look at these people. Had a really famous street artist exhibition in Melbourne, 10, 15 years ago, and I liked street art growing up. It was a big part of the scene. And then it got into contemporary art, and I started collecting. And the funds of buying my first property were through the proceeds of art. I fell in love with, I can own something, and if I pick the right artist and back the right artist, I can create some significant, wealth or fortune when you pick the right ones.
I never understood it, and one of my mentors loves art. I'm looking at it, he's looking at it, he goes, "What do you see, Chris?" I said to him, "I've got no idea." And he's talking to me about it, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't get it. How much did you buy it for?" About $1 million. What's it worth? About 7-8 million. That I get, I said to him. What sort of time frames? I go, that excites me. Now talk to me about the picture. Now it came to light to me. I go, "What do you see?" I said to him. He told me what he saw. He goes, "An artist's painting, it's his interpretation of whatever it may be, and everyone might have different interpretations of it." And listening to him talk about art fascinated me. Now the numbers fascinated me more because I thought, wow, what a difference. But just the way he spoke about it fascinated me.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a hobby of mine. Is now I sit back and do the more collecting side of it. And just managing artists with everything I was doing, it was just got too much.
Remember you sent me that one picture and I go, what am I looking at, Mick? And you go, this is a famous photo of this and this guy, the shark one.
Oh, Adam Cullen, yep.
And I go,
I wish you had have bought that because it's doubled in value. I wish I had got that too.
I wish I did because my middle daughter Penelope, is obsessed in sharks. I just did her got her a shark cake for her birthday. She wanted the most gruesome shark, which is not very girl-like, but that's what she liked. Should have loved that anyway. I should have known a bit more. Now, Michael, I can talk about business with you all day.
Yep.
So it's limited to so we'll get you back on. Love seeing your success. Very proud of you and Sam. I know the best is yet to come. You're very smart. You're switched on, and you're going to do some good things. You've got a great team. Greenrock's doing amazing things. Good rebrand, and I'm always following you and cheering you on from the sides, and I can't wait to see the heights you guys both reach. And I'm always here if you ever need anything.
You always
Finance, property.
Thank you.
If you need a good real estate agent, let us know.
always looking, always hiring for anyone that.
Always pitching. Now, you ready for our quick fire questions, Michael?
Yeah, let's go.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
One thing at a time.
I know some of these, but our listeners don't. Early bird or night owl?
Both.
Favorite book or podcast recommendation?
Most influential book in my life was Good to Great.
Good to Great, huh?
Jim Collins.
One word to describe your leadership style.
Open mind. Well, it's not. It's
Coffee or tea?
Double.
We'll put it together. Put a hyphen in the middle. Make it one word.
Yeah. Double espresso. 3 times a day.
If you could have dinner with anyone, living or dead, who would it be?
Probably Stephen Schwartzman. I'm just into him at the moment.
Beach vacation or mountain getaway?
Mountain, definitely.
What's your go-to productivity hack? What's something you do that keeps you productive?
Diary.
I know we haven't mentioned, but you're actually an avid runner as well, and I'd like to segue. You do have stage 1 diabetes, but you still do a lot of things. You're very active.
Yep.
And you're big on promoting life goes on and keep running, in your case.
Yeah, well, keep running. It's challenging. It is. I'm type 1 diabetic, so.
Which is really good, and we didn't have time to cover that.
Yep.
Favorite quote?
If it is to be, it's up to me.
Love that. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
What's the last song you listened to?
Fortunate Son.
Favorite food indulgence?
Pasta.
If you could visit one place in the world right now, where would it be?
Right now?
Yeah.
Probably skiing in Switzerland.
I have to ask this, not on there, but I ask it sometimes. If someone had to play you in a movie of the story of your life, which actor would cast you?
Don't know, Christian Bale?
Yeah, Batman. What's your guilty pleasure?
Having a night out with the boys.
What skill do you wish you had?
I wish I had more patience.
As I'm learning you, I think you're becoming more patient. It's a skill that I've at 44 is starting to acquire a bit.
Yeah.
And you've got one little one, so the more kids you have, the older you get. I think
that's
will
making
happen.
me be patient.
What's one thing on your bucket list you haven't done yet?
There's a lot. There's nothing really on my bucket list that I think about, to be honest. I feel like I've pretty well traveled and done a lot of things I want to do. I just want to keep building my family. I want to have a bigger family.
That's the spirit, me too. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much you enjoyed being on the podcast?
It's right up there. I think it's
8.7.
10. I think it's a 10.
I've absolutely loved talking to you, Michael. Look forward to seeing your growth. Check up Greenrock, guys, and well done to you and Sam. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, mate.
It's always an awkward shark.